Did you hear from anyone yet?
No, Henry, you're the first to call. Is everybody all right? Henry?
Maria and Lucas are not here.
What do you mean, not there?
The water came and swept everyone away. And I found Thomas and Sam and Maria and Lucas up.
Henry?
I don't know what to do. I don't know where to look for them. Lots of people need to use this phone, okay? I was calling it. Thank you.
A clip from The Impossible. It stars Naomi Watts and Ewan McGregor. Ewan, hello, good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much indeed for spending some time with us.
My pleasure.
I have to say, having watched The Impossible, I think The Road was the last movie that I sat through feeling as utterly drained when I came out. I mean, it's an extraordinary experience that people are going to go through when they go and see this film.
Yes, it's very, very devastating to watch. Our director, Juan Antonio Bayona, who directed a film a few years ago called The Orphanage, just heard a story on the radio. This one woman, Maria, talking about her family's experience when they were caught in the tsunami in 2004 in Thailand.
Yes.
And he was so moved by her story that he met her and asked her permission to make a movie of their story. And you know, at the forefront of all of our minds was the fact that we were telling not only their true story, but also, I suppose, through their story, the story of everybody who was affected by that tsunami, the people who lost their lives there and the survivors. So we set about to try and do it as honestly and truthfully as we possibly could, and not let the fact that we were making a movie out of it sort of get in the way, if you like, of that true story. So the result is that it is rather a devastating movie to watch. Yeah.
So just tell us about the family then. You're playing Henry. We see there is of course a blissful few minutes at the beginning of the film, although we all know what's coming, so we're all a little bit tense and stressed by the but just tell us about the family as you arrive on Christmas Eve, I think it is.
Yeah. Well, we get there you know, like many families did. They were there on their Christmas holidays, and the family, in fact, was working were living in Japan. Although they're a Spanish family, we played them as a British family, but they're a sort of last-minute holiday booking, and they come to Thailand to enjoy the Christmas holidays together as a family. So we had it's Naomi Watts and myself and our three boys, who I think of almost as like being our three boys. You know, we have a very short space of time at the beginning of the film, maybe 8 minutes or something, to set up
6
6 minutes, whatever, to set up a family that the audience are going to care about and you know, want to follow through this story. So and that was in fact very easily done, because the three boys were Naomi and I know each other. We've worked together before in a movie called Stay some years ago, and we're friends. So that was absolutely fine. And then the boys, they were just great. We boys, Oakley, Samuel, and Tom, and they're brilliant. Tom was one of the Billy Elliots on stage in London's West End for 2 years. So he's an actor, you know, he's learnt his craft on the stage, and we watched him. He was 14 when we made the film, taking that knowledge and putting it in front of a camera for the first time, which was exciting for us because he's so very, very talented, and he does an incredible job in this film, you'll see. But the younger boys had no experience, and it was my job really, because I was with them, and my storyline is more with the two younger boys, so...
Yes,
they were great too.
And it's difficult to talk about in too much detail without sort of giving a whole lot of stuff away. But the fact that it's a true story, there's an awful lot of information, as there always is now, in the trailer. So I don't think it's it's not giving too much away to say that after when the wave hits. So as you mentioned, Naomi is off with the elder boys with Tom, and I thought, oh well, that's it. You know. You turned up, you did that opening bit of filming, and we're not going to see you again. Well, my assumption was that you and the two younger boys were very early casualties.
Yes.
And I suppose it's that part of the film. Someone's described it as the passion of Naomi Watts. I mean, it is an astonishing, visceral experience that we have. And then we cut to you, and the relationship with you and your two boys, and you know, same with Naomi with the oldest boy, is absolutely heartrending.
Yeah.
And it's part of. I mean, it sounds like it's a bad thing, but it's one of the most grueling 90 minutes. That opening 90 minutes was the bulk of the film. Is really relentless, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it was. You know, I mean, I think the whole the film tries to, as accurately as possible that family's experience, and that it was absolutely, people were in an enormous state of shock, and the very idea of being split up from your children, not knowing where they are, is brutal, devastating.
The 2 points I just want to mention before we finish. First of all, the sound of this movie is terrifying. Particular attention has been paid. I can't remember a movie since World Trade Center where the audio is terrifying, and whoever did the sound, absolutely sensational.
Oscar.
Which was brilliant. But you mentioned Juan Antonio Bayona having done The Orphanage.
Yeah.
For a lot of this film, Ewan, it felt like a horror movie. Really, is that how it came? I mean, there was so much of it which was so difficult and so tough to watch that there's a sequence where Naomi is throwing up and coughing blood up. You're thinking, wow, this is a horror film.
I mean, I think that's certainly the genre that he was playing with in his first movie, and he's a really talented director, Juan Antonio. And I don't know, it's that sequence you mentioned is. You could lend itself to that sort of genre of movie, but I think of it as being a true story where we really set out to try and tell as accurately as possible a true story of this family's account of what happened to them that day. And so although there are little moments of that, I wouldn't think of it as being horror. Mm-hmm. I mean, the situation is horrible, of course.
My understanding, and correct me if I've got this wrong, Ewan, is that although you might think there's a lot of CGI, or one might think there's a lot of CGI in the movie, actually there's hardly any at all. Can you explain? Because the impact of the tsunami is brilliantly done, and then the devastation is brilliantly done. Can you explain a little bit about how they achieved that?
They achieved it. First of all, they made the decision very early on to use real water, even though they didn't know at that point how they were going to do that. They had a budget made for CGI special effects, and it came back as being, I think, 5 times more than the total budget of the film that we had to make the film with. So they really didn't have any choice. But also, he wanted nothing that pulled us out of the story, because it's I keep saying it's a true story. It's this family's real story. He didn't. If suddenly you cut to a shot with CGI water, it can never quite look real enough, and in a true story that wouldn't work for us. So. He decided to use real water, which meant Naomi and Tom spent 6 weeks, I think, shooting that wave sequence in a huge tank in Alicante in Spain. All of the water is real. Of course, it's replicated by visual effects so that there's more of it than there was. And then he shot on a model set. After we shot the movie in Thailand, he spent another month or so shooting on a third scale down set of the hotel we were staying at, and shooting it being hit by water.
And did you get any feedback from the people you were filming with? I understand some of them had actually, they'd witnessed the tsunami firsthand.
Yeah, well, we were shooting in Khao Lak in Thailand. We were shooting in the hotel that the real family were actually staying in. When the wave hits, we're standing in exactly the same positions that they were when it really happened in 2004, which is kind of odd, eerie feeling to it when we shot that scene. But we were also staying in hotels along that coastline that were all affected by the tsunami. All our extras were people mainly who had been there and experienced it. The vast majority of our crew were Thai crew who had all been affected by the tsunami in one way or another. So we always had access to people, and people were very open and told us their stories of survival and their stories of loss, and it was very important to us that they did, because we tried to incorporate those sentiments and feelings and sometimes details from their stories into the work that we were doing on the movie to make it as real as possible and honest as possible.
A huge sense of responsibility on you and the rest of the crew.
Yeah, I think that is the main thing, is that we carried that responsibility, and I hope that we did justice to it. It was an odd moment when I was approached, before I read the script, and someone said it's a film about the tsunami, and I was thinking, well, is that right? Is that why would you make a movie about that? Is it the right thing to do? And having read it, I was totally assured that it was a valid movie, that by following this one family's experience, you not only have a greater knowledge of what happened there that day, because it's almost too big to wrap your mind around, really. The number of people that lost their lives there is so high that it's difficult to imagine. But by focusing on this one family, we do learn a lot more about it and about human nature, and we can't help but feel empathy with the people that we see in the movie. And there's always accounts of people's selflessness in situations like this, people that put themselves at great risk to save others, and we see that in this film with the Thai people who save Maria and help her, get her to hospital, and the people in the hospital, the Thai doctors, and some of the camaraderie between the survivors, in my story, a sort of unity that people came together to help one another in a very deep and profound way, which is important to see, I think.
Well, as I said, an astonishing performance from yourself and Naomi Watts and the kids. People are going to be talking about this film for a long time. Ewan, what do we see you in next, sir?
I've got a film coming out in February. Well, it couldn't really be further away from this one. It's called Jack the Giant Slayer, and it's the movie version of Jack and the Beanstalk.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that, and hopefully you'll come around and talk to us.
Variety is the spice of life,
exactly.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Ewan, appreciate your time. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Take care.